Okay, cool.
All right. Well, this says that it's still setting it up. All right, cool.
Facebook Live.
Welcome to The Union, engaging conversations about personal growth. Whatever. We've actually just been chatting already, so we're going to jump right into this week's topic, which is relationship patterns, or how are you noticing the ways that you continue to show up in relationships over and over. So let's see, we just kind of jump right into people talking about their ideas about this topic or their experience with it. Bill?
Yeah.
Would you like to go first?
Sure. We're just talking about patterns in relationship.
Yeah, and like for you,
Okay.
what do you notice for yourself?
Okay, so a big piece to my patterns is like I'll meet somebody and I won't really get like a chance to know them before we start like dating. I tend to be a seductress. Like people tend to like see me and then they get kind of obsessed and then things blow up, right? And it's a pattern that I've had like forever. And recently I was dating somebody, and so all the patterns came up, and then it blew up, and it was probably like the hydrogen bomb to all breakups that I've ever had. It was probably the most intense breakup I've ever had and traumatic. So I realized after that, I was like, wow, I really need to look at this and go to therapy, which was like my first thing that I did. And ever since then, it's been like really amazing to see how much I have grown as an individual from that, but also looking at the pattern specifically that I used to do and going through one by one and just unfolding it, seeing what it is, and seeing if I can change it in the moment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cora, what's your experience with relationship patterns? How does it affect you?
This is a good one. I definitely see them repeat, and I've had kind of sporadic relationships through my life, like intense relationship, long period of time, that kind of thing. And so getting into my current relationship, I was like, oh my God, this is so much like the last dysfunctional one, is just reminding me of all this stuff. And I was actually pretty glad in a way, because it made me feel like I could get free of some of those things without having to contact my dysfunctional ex-partner, who is quite a lot of turmoil himself, or at least was the last time I had any contact with him, and it just was not working through anything to be in contact with him. So now I have this great partner, and he reminds me in some ways, and we've really gotten to work through a lot of things with those things coming up early in our relationship. And most recently I've been struggling with feeling like he slows me down in a way, and he works really hard and like works with his body. He's a massage therapist and does really intense physical massage. So usually when he's not working, he just wants to like chill out and like just chill out and hang out in bed and all of that. And for a while I was like, I haven't spent very much time hanging out in bed in a while, so I love this. And now I'm like, but there are things to do, and I have so much energy, and I'm literally going crazy. So I've been wrestling with that, and feeling like I get slowed down, and he doesn't want to do as much, and he doesn't meet me at that speed. And then actually just yesterday, I was really fucked up about something that happened, and I hope it's okay to curse on this podcast. I was really upset. I've been upset for like 2 days straight, and I and I went out with him and we were outside in nature, and I just like told him everything I was fucked up about continuously in a way that I thought was definitely not okay. It was like definitely too much. And he just like took it really well and was super awesome. He was like, no, I like this. And I ended up feeling way better and clearer and brighter after. And I am finding it interesting looking at those two different spots, that when I'm really on and I have a lot of energy, I don't necessarily know what to do with him, but when I'm upset, he's totally willing to go into that place with me. I had forgotten that.
Nice. Thanks. Yes.
It's my turn. Okay. Two things are coming up for me that I like actually just was like, oh, so the first one, my biggest pattern in relationship is I lose myself in relationship. I like think that I'm doing everything for myself and I'm so happy and I'm like putting all of my attention out and like things are flowing, and then like all of a sudden I just realized like I hit full stop. I'm like, wait, none of this is what I want. None of this is like actually my idea. This is all like somebody else's idea. And I'm just like, keep doing what they're doing because like, if they're happy, I'm happy. And then I get resentful and bitter and mean. And, and I like get pouty and I like contract and, you know, I do all these things that are totally self-sabotaging. And so the last like 2 months I've been trying really hard on more of like speaking my truth. And then like anytime that that's been happening, like turn it back around and look at myself and say like, oh, where am I losing myself? What part of this is not me? And like, what part do I actually want? And like, just being still with myself instead of just like, I'm a roller coaster person. We talked about this last time. It's like, I get on the ride and I'm like, woo! And then like, just lose it. Right. And then I crash at the end and I'm like, why me? Everybody sucks. Yeah. So I'm trying really hard to like flow a little bit more, be a little more still in things, like stay on my own ride and tap into my desire more. And then I realized that part of that pattern is really triggered by my fear. So like I've been working on dropping that part of me that's like afraid to be lost, afraid to be abandoned, afraid of my own power in relationship. I think that's a big one, is like, oh my gosh, how much power I have. Like I put all this power out on other people and like making them successful. And then when I try to like put it back on myself, it's like a fire hose, you know, and I can't like handle all of it. And so then like I've been going back and forth between like trying to titrate myself or like, you know, to handle all of it. You know, how I asked somebody yesterday in a coaching call, I was like, so what is it like to date yourself? Like, how would you date yourself? And then I started like answering the same question. I was like, wow, that's intense. Whoa, you know? So I think that's like I'd like to ask you guys like, well, I know Keith's going to go next, but yeah, when in relationship patterns, like what is it like to like date yourself? Like, how would you want to be dated?
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's, you know, it's been a pretty long journey to get to this kind of last iteration, but I think the most recent pattern that I connected to, identified, had a lot to do with security, like finding security in an external place. And, you know, when it hasn't like just been available, one of the ways that I create it is I get into a relationship, and I've got some pretty intense, you know, things that take over when I move from whatever is like the relatively casual part, whether it's dating or we've like known each other, you know, some function where it's more like friendship level, to the moment that I call it relationship, like all of this unconscious stuff starts to take over. I noticed this very recently, and it was kind of disturbing. You know, it like freaked me out a bunch actually, because because the circumstances of the relationship with the person hardly changed at all. There were little tweaks and adjustments to our container, but it was really mostly, at least on my end of the experience, was just calling it relationship instead of calling it dating. Turned it like expectation and how this person should be acting, and I should be taken care of in these places, and how considerate they should be. I am, just like getting like really, irritable in like very fast ways. So yeah, that's kind of the one that's most up for me is how I use relationship to create security, but it's external, and so then any time I perceive it as threatened, I get really like triggered and like that. Okay, well, so we'll do a quick. We'll take this break and we'll do a quick round of introductions, and we'll just. I'm going to go around my screen, which I realize may not be the same for all of you, and we'll just do real fast. I'll go last, and then we'll be right back into the topic. So Desiree, you are
first. All right, I can see this time. So Desiree Cruz, and I'm a lifestylist and desire coach, and I help people style and design the life that they want, and then guide them along the path to actually live it.
Thank you. Cora.
I'm Cora, and I work with women whose mothers have died early in their adult lives to rediscover the joy and depth of relationships that they want.
Thank you. Bill.
Billy Stolbavine, and I'm just a relationship and sexuality coach. That's it.
Thank you. My name is Keith Paolino, and I help successful men and women navigate the challenging waters of interpersonal relationships because they don't follow the same rules as business success. Awesome. Thanks for sticking with us if you're still out there. All right, so one of the things that I wrote down, I forget who was talking, I think it might have been Cora, was this possibility that there's we're any of us who are doing personal growth are on a path of self-discovery, right? But there's the solo piece, and then there's the in connection piece, it seems to be, and then finding ways that the solo remains solid while having the fluid of connection seems to be like the hardest thing. So what I was wondering is. It was Cora, because it was so I know her partner and he's awesome, and it's did any of you notice where it required that you found a partner of a certain quality before the canvas that we're kind of projecting our stuff onto was clean enough that we could actually see it as ours and not just kind of get wrapped up. That was the thought that I had when you were talking, Cora.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like I did have that experience.
Hi, Billy.
You want to say something, Billy?
No, go ahead. No, just really resonating.
Yeah.
I feel like I really did get that experience because we really dived into the relationship really fast. So not a lot happened before we were all in the feeling of it and having these things come up and.
Yeah, I mean, did you notice that you wanted to project early on until you kind of figured out that he was actually cool with all of your stuff, and you know what I mean? Was there that experience, or maybe not?
Yeah, for sure. It was I feel like I lost your question just a little bit. But it was like these things came up, and I was like totally feeling them, and like totally.
We can just come back to you. That way you don't have to scramble for an answer. This is not a high pressure talk show. This is like, if you don't have an answer, you don't have to talk.
Well, I was gonna say I was totally in the feeling, and then I was like mentally like I don't know if this actually is true. Like maybe I should ask him. That's what he said.
Right, getting perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think so when you were asking that question, the thing that actually stuck out for me, because I'm sure that there was like a specific question that you were looking for or an outcome, but the thing that I like landed on was this idea of like, was your canvas actually clean before you got into the relationship and started projecting a bunch of shit onto it? And so I think about like ways in which I try to like clean my canvas all the time. Like where I'm like, oh, I'm going to restart and I'm going to look at all my stuff and I'm going to like smooth it all out and make it look pretty again. And inevitably though, like as I'm doing that, I trip over a bucket of like tie-dye and splash it back onto the canvas somehow. And so it's like, I get better. I get better every time. And where I actually can clean it off a little bit more. But it's like, every time I look at my partner, I can see all of the places where I still need to work on myself. And it's like trying to stay sober and conscious in that spot so that you can actually paint your canvas so that it doesn't look like Van Gogh. I mean, maybe Van Gogh's your style, but like actually, you know, try to be more conscious about it and try to be more sober every single time. And I think that's the place of like personal growth and self-discovery, is like trying to do it a little bit better every time.
Right, it's all cycles, right? Yeah, because otherwise, well, we get into the all or nothing, the black and white thinking is the junkie mentality, right? It's either it's the perfect relationship or it's totally horrible. And I'm like, that's gonna leave you without a lot of, not a lot of choices there. Billy, what was you had a pretty visceral reaction earlier. I was just curious, like where you're at with.
Well, it was like, I was in this relationship with this woman, and it wasn't very long, but I hadn't been in a relationship, like what I consider like a relationship with a girlfriend, and like us doing like stuff, like working our inner workings out, and then in relationship workings out together in like, honestly, like 6 years. Like I had I don't consider anybody that I dated pretty much previously to be super significant in like this certain way. I realized that after that relationship, it's like, it doesn't matter like how much work I've done. You could say I've done all this work about relationships and working at a place that's all about relationships and all about connection and all this shit. And it's like, when you get in front of somebody and they are committed and they want to work with you and they're like relentless about it.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
Everything. I have a girlfriend right now who like, she literally is like, I love you for exactly who you are and all of your parts. And I'm looking at her like not believing her, because my story is like, I've been abandoned. Nobody can handle me. I'm very intense. I'm like a really intense person. And she's just unwavering, and she's just still here.
All of our parts, right? Like,
fuck,
I mean, I know very few people who are like, I am in complete acceptance of myself, me included, like. And so to have someone show up where they're like, I want to know all parts of you, you're like, fuck you, you're full.
Yeah. And like,
I'm kind of a bitch sometimes, and it's like, really, you like that part? Like, well, let's see, and then you test them, like,
and then you test them
on that part.
Just crank this up to 11 and see how you do. And that's I think that's the scariest part, is like, she literally, like, I am 100% myself with her, as is she, and she like still like, and like I mean, like the last person like just left, and I felt like I was some kind of monster, and like it was this whole thing, and then I learned so much. I did learn like a significant about myself, and there were internal structures and like foundations of in myself that I did heal. And I'm not gonna lie, like, you know, and I resisted my current girlfriend for like 6 months because I wasn't ready, and I knew that, but there were certain things that I did not know about myself that I did gain from that previous one. And then coming into this relationship, there are certain things that are completely unwavering. Like, I have very intense good boundaries around certain things, and then there are other places where I don't. But those internal places, like, are the places that I'm working on right now. And it's really nice because it's like, at this point, I don't have that fear of like, if you leave, man, maybe it's for the better, but if you stay, that's where the scary word for me is. Like, somebody sticking around and wanting to be like, oh, you want to go to couples therapy for like, you know, what's it called? Like pre-op, you know, for like a, like, not, it's not a symptom, but it's just like preventive care. Oh, sure. You know, like, she's a yes to that. And it's really nice to have something just as simple as that, being like, you're a yes to these things that like I don't ever usually feel worthy of with a partner.
That's super hot, by the way, like to actually be in a practice relationship where we're like, oh, we're going to work through this stuff before it happens because we know this about ourselves. Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing?
I mean, you know, there's obviously things come up, you know, all the time, but it's really nice to be like, this person is open and willing to do the work. And it doesn't matter how long it takes to do one thing. The fact that like she's willing to be in a session with me, watch me cry. Apparently nobody likes watching me cry. It's really sad. And she's like, no, I'm here to witness this. And I want to work. And she like thanks me like all the time about going to therapy. Like, what? It's awesome, you know?
I have a question for everyone, really, which is like, so one of the things I've noticed is in well-matched couples, there tends to be a stayer and a leaver.
Yeah.
Stairs? Wow.
I'm more of that table flipper of that Thursday meme, like, fuck this shit. I'm going, oh, wait. It's only Friday or it's only Thursday.
Right.
It just depends on the way that I get a reaction. Like, it really depends on the reaction. It's like my love addict is triggered by like the love avoidant. And then the more that they like show their love addict, like my love avoidant kicks in. So, And so I have coaches that I can say like, oh, hey, am I like playing out my game here? Or am I like, is this like real? Like, give me some perspective here. Like, is this just like my pattern and I'm triggered by their like reaction to it? Or is this actually like the true deeper desire that I want to like be playing out?
Yeah. Corey, you're the leaver, huh? I'm surprised.
Well, I'm not totally sure I'm the leaver, but in my relationship, it's like my boyfriend is a rock and doesn't like change. And I'm like, let's do crazy things together and let's fly to the other side of the world and let's do this crazy thing and let's go out dancing tonight and let's go out to this other thing and just all over the place. And I do tend to be pretty like committed and like try to the end of the earth to stay in there in a relationship, but I'm more all over the place than my.
I actually really love that as a reframe, or as maybe even as like an evolutionary perspective of, you know, that the stayer can kind of evolve into the grounded foundation for the relationship.
Somebody on our Facebook feed just commented that it's the stayer can also be the I'm a ride or die. I'm like,
right.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, I just love the idea of like, you know, as a stayer, part of it was that, you know, the downside of it was that I violated a shit ton of my own boundaries, like all the time. And as I've learned and gotten better at having healthy boundaries and being willing to state them and hold them for myself and take responsibility for my own boundaries, I do feel more grounded in my relationships, French, all kinds of my relationships, right? And so I love that idea of the reframe being like, as you become more fully yourself and have boundaries and get to know your inner landscape and, love all your parts, then maybe the lever becomes ignition, and stair becomes ground or foundation. And then those are, I use this word titration. I'm trying to get the diagonal of the screen. And titration from, so that we grow towards each other, to become more dynamic beings. So that was you just actually changed shit for me, Cora, so thanks.
Thank you. I love that. I love that interpretation. I think I'm just starting to see how that can be a really positive thing, and there are definitely times when I'm like, why aren't we like doing more and going out more, and like why do you want to stay home, and like what's happening? and that so we wrestle, even though we're not like trying to like, even though I'm not trying to like leave the relationship for periods of time at least, even though he's not trying to like to have it be more than I want, we're still like wrestling out this like smaller level of it.
I think another piece to that too, though, is like that has broken a lot of my patterns in relationship has been staying connected. Like, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're in the same room or that like we're, my partner and I tend to get like beastie when we fight and we go in. And what I'm trying to work on for myself is like, because that's a form of violating my own boundaries is like, getting that fix, and of like a ton of sensation or something. And then I blank out and can't think about, I'm not rational anymore. And so I've been working on like, when that happens, I literally just say, okay, we need to take space and go to our corners. Like, I need to go for a walk or do something to figure out what got triggered, how I can communicate it best to her. And then we're not getting in that pattern of like unhealthy fighting that can like, can escalate. And, Aaron and I aren't violent people, but like, I definitely, when I go into that place of blanking out, like I'm unpredictable and I go into my involuntary. And so, it can get like scary or whatever, but like that's one of the things that I learned through just staying connected and knowing, okay, like if we go to our corners, we're still going to be connected, and I trust that we're going to come back and figure out what happened and then work on whatever happened. But I think that's a huge thing, is like when people get into something and then they just disconnect, and you could be in the same room and be disconnected, but there's a way that we've cultivated a type of connection that we stay in it, no matter if she like drives off in her car and has to call me or text me and then come back and talk about it. There's always that level of connection. I think that's the place where it's like, okay, it's two individuals talking about this certain thing together. And there's a distinction of like, we're individuals. We're having our own experiences. Yours are on the other side. Mine's over here. Let's talk about it. I think that's super important. I think that's a place that I see a lot of my clients that's where they get the most hurt, is something really intimate comes up, and like fighting is a type of intimacy, right? They get into a fight and then one of them goes off and like drinks themselves for the rest of the night, and the other one's whatever. I mean, that's just an extreme case. I want it to be extreme.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a thing.
Yeah, like I know for me, because I love high sensation. So it's like, if I'm not getting it somewhere else, I can find a fight somewhere. And I've been told, you all know I can find a fight. And so like, I've been told by several, like I get reminded by people that love me that like, you can put it into constructive drama or you can put it into destructive drama. And so I'm learning where like when I want that high sensation to like slow down and choose the better choice, because when I just like react to the sensation, I end up like going off to left field, and I make adjustments or I make requests of people in those fights that end up where they're like, instead of like a little bit like, can you move just a little to the right or the left? Like they end up over in Nebraska. And it's like, no, that's not what I wanted. I just like wanted a slight like change so that we could like get back to like connection. Right. And so it's like, you got to slow down to do it though. What was that, Keith?
Needing space doesn't mean you get on a plane.
Right. It's like, can you just back up so that I can see you? So I'm like totally blind and I wear contacts. And so like, I can't see somebody right here, but if you just back up slightly, that is, I can.
Or I feel like I can't breathe, and like actually slow down the interaction, for 60 seconds, where I can actually take a breath, and you can take a breath, and
right. In that arguing dynamic, I think I am more the stayer. Like when feeling comes up, I'm like, let's get into it. And I want to talk about it and like say all the things that are coming up for me. And my partner is like, whoa, I need some space. Maybe it's partially a man thing. I'm like, I just am going to be stoic now and get away from you for a minute. Kind of thing.
I think I'm usually having that experience, where my pattern has been the one who like wants to stay in it to finish, to resolve. Yeah. I need resolution to feel better.
You must find resolution now.
And that's where, that's like part of that external security thing I was talking about earlier, right? I want to acknowledge that we're just slightly past 30 minutes. And so maybe we could just go around fast and say like one thing for yourself that has helped you been able to see your patterns and then, work with them inside your relationships that has you feel more successful in your relationships. And, if that's not relevant and you want to say something else, go for it. But I just want to say, we're wrapping up.
I think one thing for me is just to like, phone a friend kind of thing, or phone a lifeline. Like I have a support system. My commitment is to have a conscious relationship. It's not always very conscious, but like I have like that as a practice, and to do so, you have to have support. And so whether it's like my coach or a friend or somebody that like knows me, but doesn't collude and gossip with me, that can actually give me truth back. That's been a huge tool that I use.
Yeah, so don't use your girlfriend who is just always like, yeah, he's just a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's actually not very useful. And most of the time when somebody responds like that to me, I'm like, oh, I gotta get off the phone. Because that's not what I want to hear. What I want to hear is like, oh, like I see this. Right. Not like
what's happening for you.
Because I'm pretty good at like making them the villain anyway. I don't need help.
Laura, do you have anything you want to add to this spot?
Yeah, I love that one, and I've been hanging out with women more recently, with more of my women friends recently, and that's wonderful. I've had so many practices through time that have helped me kind of one on top of the other. Writing exercises, getting in touch sexually. I think like clearing my head and getting in touch sexually are two of the main things that make our relationship rich. And recently I've been, I got this, I was listening to this teacher who was talking about just psychologizing less and taking care of ourselves physically more. And that has been super helpful, specifically in noticing how much exercise my body wants and actually giving it to myself. And it feels like too much. It feels like it takes too much of my time, but I just have so much energy in here that if I don't, I've been doing this little 20-minute morning set of exercises and then going to a class every other day, like an hour and a half, like aerial yoga class or circus class, like super hardcore exercises, more than I had been doing for quite a while. And I just have so much energy in here that I need to get it out physically, or it's not it's not so good.
That's good. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Billy, you have
Yeah. So for me, like, I'm a psychology major. Like, I can psychoanalyze, process the shit out of anything. I'm a fucking Libra. Like I will go to the nth degree and find every nook and cranny and like obsess about it and get all intense. And then I have all of these feels in my body. So I have a somatic therapist that I've been working with, and she's like somebody who I actually feel safe and I can connect with. And so because of that, there's a lot of really good like excavating that we do. And my relationship is a direct reflection to a lot of different deeper things. And so having somebody who's not a friend, who's not a fucking coach, I'm sorry, like I know I'm a coach, but like even the coach needs a coach, like somebody else. And I've realized that working with somebody that's a therapist who has life coaching skills, but also has like some like background obviously in counseling and everything really works for me. And it's somebody who I feel like they're value neutral, but they're also there to like benefit me and like helping me get free is really important. I want somebody who knows about like the mind and stuff. So that one really helps me a lot. I had a really intense job over the summer working at a youth group home, and these are kids that weren't even like available for foster homes because they were that troubled. And so having somebody that I could work through when things came up was really important, but also in that field. So that was really big. Also exercise is huge. Right. I lift weights like no one's business when I get to the gym, and I always feel clear when I do that. So
I want to just say something real fast and we'll go through and end because we're actually, and I'm going to have to change the timing on this because I think 30 minutes is not enough.
Not enough.
Not when you're talking about all the feels.
Not feels don't have time, Keith. Keith, there's no time when it comes to the feminine feels.
There's like stretching the container and then there's breaking it. You know?
Can't it just breathe?
I actually, based on everything you guys said, I don't think I have anything to add. I will say I've had a phenomenal therapist who also has a lot of energy work experience and had a Reiki master as his mentor, but also went to Johns Hopkins as a master's from Johns Hopkins. So, they're that kind of combination. If you can't find a therapist like that, I highly recommend finding a solid therapist that cares about you and a coach who has a lot more flexibility with how they're able to operate with you in the confines of therapeutic ethics and regulations versus how a coach can operate in an amazing combination when you have both going on at the same time. All right, we'll go real quick. Desiree, is there anybody, anywhere you want to send people?
I think the easiest way is like if you're all watching this video and you want to comment below or send me a personal message in Facebook, you can contact me that way, or Desiree at DesireeCruz.com. But then you have to know how to spell Desiree. So there you
go. Right there on the screen, folks.
So it is.
Clara, anywhere you want to send people if they're looking to contact you?
Yeah, please, same thing. Please contact me through Facebook. You can send me a private message, and get in touch.
Really, anything?
Yeah, message on Facebook is the easiest, simplest way.
Facebook it is. Awesome. Well, this concludes another awesome episode of The Union. I'm so grateful that all my friends keep showing up for this and make it so much fun. So we will see you next Tuesday at 12:15 Central Time. That's 10:15 Eastern, 11:15 Mountain. and 1:15 Eastern. Cool. Thank you very much. Bye. Say bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet.